Hey folks, it is I, Mallory, and we're live. I bet you my audio is going to sound awful because I'm using the microphone on the webcam and the room is empty. You probably noticed that right away. Gone are my cool tchotchkes and stuff like that. And that's because we're moving, which I'm sure that some of you knew from seeing my posts. But yeah, we're next Thursday we move to Saskatchewan, possibly Friday, because you don't know exactly when the moving truck shows up until it's on the way, because stuff could happen. But hopefully it'll be Thursday. So I know it's been a bit since I've done lunch with Mal. It's also Friday and not Thursday. I was going to do it yesterday, but I was just too wiped out after like packing a bunch of boxes and moving a bunch of things. I kind of overexerted a bit. My back was killing me. So lunch with Mal ends up being today. There won't be a lunch with Mal next week though, because that will be moving day, and possibly not the week after as well, because we'll just be getting to our new digs in Saskatchewan and unpacking. The truck might arrive then, because the truck is going to take 6 to 7 days. It's only going to take me about 4 days to drive to Saskatchewan, but I think the truck has to like take more breaks and stuff like that. So, hey Jill, why'd you say Christmas? You're just thinking about Christmas coming? Oh, oh, Jill's downstairs, so I can actually hear her. Yes, I did say it's like called the March to Christmas or something like that. That's what I called this. Yeah, so that makes sense. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad your book's up for pre-sale. That is super cool. Good job. I'm glad you got it out there. So yeah, so of course, I think like the noteworthy thing that I reason why I titled this lunch with Mel what I did is because yeah, we're coming up on the March to Christmas. Um, there's sort of like two low periods in the year. One of them is in February, and you wouldn't think it is because you think that the Christmas high is kind of still going on and people have everything else to do. But for whatever reason, February is always a low in the book sales, book reading department. And the other one is actually like late August. There's a dip as well right after Mother's Day. It kind of like putters along through June, but it doesn't have like the same sort of like hit as the lead up to Labor Day in the US and Canada. And I think there's a similar holiday in the UK and other places as well. So this is always like a low period, but we start this weekend the climb toward Christmas, which I think is super awesome for all of us authors out there. Um, September is an excellent month to launch your book if you have a new book coming. October is also pretty good too. And also, oh, my cat has detected that someone might be doing something, and this is the perfect time to come and involve herself. You can see your tail kind of went by there. Um, but yeah, so and October is good too. October, it's sort of interesting historical note. October actually used to be one of the worst times of year to release a book because that's when TradPub releases most of their titles so they can get bestseller tags and get some steam going before Christmas. But it's since Trad is really not like as big a thing as they used to be, it really is now that indies can do really well releasing in October, and it can be really good because you can get some steam, you can get reviews and whatnot, and then when your book comes out, then when Christmas time rolls around, you can have a sale or you just sort of promo heavily this book that you've rolled out and do really well with that. Well, it's awesome. Your book comes out on the first. I mean, I think it's okay. Taylor Swift releases her albums with less notice than most authors put their books on. I think it's okay to have your book come out the same day as Taylor Swift. That's also something I remind people of too, that like your book isn't just its release, it's an asset that you're going to have out forever, and you can run sales on it, promo it, re-release it, whatever you want to do. It's not like a one and done sort of situation. It can absolutely come out again later, and you can do other things with it. Or you can bundle it in some way in an omnibus edition or other types of collections that you can do. So there's always another release that you can do with a book. It doesn't just sort of like evaporate once it's released that one time. I'm enjoying my mediocre Tim Hortons coffee, by the way. I mentioned that, and Jill's like, "That sounds so insulting." I'm like, "Well, it's just like Dunkin' Donuts coffee, It's like it's just a mediocre cup of coffee, and it's big and hot, and will be hot for most of this lunch with Mel that I'm doing. Hey, we got some more people here. Say hi if you want to. Um, I'm curious what people have planned as we get into fall, as far as releases or anything like that's concerned. I have my next release comes out two stages. It's the 15th of September on my website, and then it's going to be out on the 25th of September for people ordering on Amazon. So I'm going to do like that release on my own site first thing, because I have all the infrastructure up to release books on my own website. So I'm going to do it that way, and I'm going to give people the option of either getting it from BookFunnel, or they can get it just directly, get an EPUB right off my website. Which I'll just kind of do that because I think a lot of people like to get the EPUB directly, especially the nerds that get books from me. And it also makes less integrations. Anytime you integrate, like you got Shopify or Wix that I use, and you want to get come on, brain, mouth catching my brain here. You want to get BookFunnel delivered automatically. There's always the risk that connection breaks down between BookFunnel and Shopify. So that it's nice when you can just sort of have the place where they bought it, send them the file, and sort of solve that problem that way. That's wild, by the way, that there's Tim Hortons in Texas. Kind of makes sense, though. It's like Dunkin' Donuts spread everywhere. So yeah, who else is here? Who else has stuff going on? You guys are all strange. Most of the guys are strangely silent today. Maybe you're just shocked by how there's nothing behind me. It's all in boxes upstairs in the garage. Oh, there's a lot of boxes right there too. I tell you, I was really regretting unboxing the fact that we unboxed so much after we moved here in April, because we knew we were going to move again within a year. But I just can't handle living around boxes. I need my space to be just so, and that just means it's more work when you're going to pack it up again. So yeah, my release that I have coming up in September is going to be pretty interesting, because if you've been to lunch with Mel's before, you know that it's a book I started writing at the tail end of 2020. I mean, probably not really. I think I released the book before it on December 21st. So I probably started writing a little bit in 2020, but I intended to do the bulk of the writing in 2021. And then just sort of due to burnout and changes, I didn't get it done. And the book also kept growing. Every time I worked on it, it got bigger and bigger. And I ended up stripping out over half of the book and even making a spin-off series that's going to encompass most of the stuff. And it's still 144,000 words at this point or something like that. So it's a chungus book, but it's really interesting, having this be my first release in 4 years. My first solo release in almost 5 years. It's really interesting to see that my readers are still there and ready for it. There's been my groups have been revitalized. People are getting excited for it. I'm getting a lot of pre-orders. I have people buying it directly off my website in pretty decently large numbers too. And it's a $7 book. I'm charging $6.99 for this book. And I think I've pre-sold 25 or 30 copies on my website now. Actually, no, it's probably higher than that, because a bunch more have been coming in. It's probably 40 or 50 copies on my website. Plus I have 170 pre-orders on Amazon. So I'm really quite excited, because all I've done is send out 2 newsletters saying hey, it's actually up and here's where you can get it. And I have not sent out a newsletter, I want to say, in maybe a year before that. So I'm quite excited by how my readers have stuck around, how they're ready for it. And also I'm always bringing in new readers, right? It's not every reader that is picking up this book waited, those 4 years. Many of them could have begun reading my books in those 4 years too. So I think that's something we kind of forget when we have, a delay or in our release schedule or something like that. And we're well, my readers are gone. But it's hey, we got new readers. Not everybody waited that whole time frame. So something I kind of remind myself as a book as well. So yeah, that's a big thing that we have going on. But for those of you who are interested in with the tea, if you didn't see my post on Facebook, I was not supposed to be here. I was supposed to be in a U-Haul truck driving across the country. No, we're not trying to move everything we have in a U-Haul truck, because when we moved from Boston up here to New Brunswick, it took a 43-foot semi truck for all of our stuff. And we are officially the first single family to ever fill that truck. Now, in our defense, because we had a whole truck, he didn't disassemble all of our furniture that could have been disassembled. So like whole desks and tables went in without the legs taken off or anything. So everything took up more room than it would have otherwise. But we have, I believe, that same truck coming again to take us to Saskatchewan. But even when we went, we moved up here from Boston, not everything quite fit. Some stuff ended up going in 10-foot U-Haul truck that my daughter and I took, which we were already taking because when you cross the border, you can actually only take it. U-Haul's the only thing that you can take one way across the border. Everybody else wants their vehicle returned to where you got it from. So that was the only thing we could take. And then we figured, okay, what we're doing this time is Eva and I, our daughter, we were going to drive out to Saskatchewan and do some renos on the house that we bought and then come back, finish packing with Jill, and the big truck would come. But as it turns out, when you rent something from U-Haul, it's not guaranteed. So there were no trucks. So we ended up having to change our plans. Originally, our big move, the big moving truck, was going to happen on October 6th, but we contacted them and said, like, hey, could you do it sooner? And they're like, how's about September 4th? And much to Jill's horror, I said yes, because Jill was really quite worried that we were not going to be able to pull it off. But we have actually. We're pretty much packed. There's all those small little annoying things that you kind of forget about, like, oh yeah, all of the, everything in the bathroom has to get packed, the towels have to get packed, all that sort of thing. But I would say we're like 90-95% packed. Probably 90 because there's all the kitchen supplies that we're going to be using for the next week still. But like my big computer here is half packed. All my extra monitors are gone. And then come Monday, I'll pack it up fully. I'll just use my laptop until Thursday when the movers come. And then I am going to be taking my car, our car, but it'll be like my home for like 5 days. And two of our cats will drive across the country. Eva and Jill are going to fly out to Saskatchewan, and they're going to take one of the cats with them on the airplane. So it's going to be quite the adventure with all of us, trucking along in different ways. But they're going to get to the house, and it's going to be empty, right? Like they're going to have their suitcases from the airplane. So families helping out with some air mattresses and stuff and blankets and stuff like that until I get there. And well, actually not until I get there, to the moving truck, because I'm going to make it there like 2 or 3 days before the moving truck. We'll get like half unpacked, and then I'll release a book like 2 or 3 days after that. So it's going to be an exciting September. I'll be back on the prairie, which it's weird going to the town you grew up in after so long, because it kind of feels like, part of you wonders, like, is this failure to end up back where you started? But I've kind of gotten past that way of thinking and realized that, going home again has a lot of benefits and is not a failure. It's just a new phase, a new stage of life. So that's kind of went down. But once that's behind us, we're going to be really ramping things back up again with classes and group calls and stuff like that. We kind of ease up on that during the summer anyway, because we have vacation, lots of other people have vacations and stuff like that. But we have a plan for our genre and trope class that will be starting, I believe, in the second last week of September. Is the first one of those. So that's our class will really teach you not only how to identify the genres and trope elements inside your own book, but then how to identify them in other people's books and then map them against yours. Be like, hey, I have this particular trope. How is this trope represented in other books? What are readers used to seeing as the thing that represents this trope? And then how do I convey this information with my title, my cover, and my blurb? Because if you don't really have a solid feel for your tropes, and what readers are going to be looking for, because tropes are just a shorthand for what readers are looking for, right? So once you understand your tropes and you try to get readers to see those, if you're going against the flow and you're saying, like, well, I have this particular element of my story, an alien invasion, and I want to represent it this way because I think it's cool and it's a scene from the book or something like that, and then you go out and you look at how all other alien invasion stories are represented, you're like, oh shoot, What they're actually playing on is like the small band of people fighting against all odds, and the aliens are more faceless and stuff like that. And that's how it's being conveyed right now, or that's the trope that's really selling. And I was going to sell something more about like alien physiology being crazy and weird or something like that. So understanding how other people are conveying the tropes, what the readers are expecting is really important, and it changes too over time. So, like back when I first started publishing, basically any sort of like big pew pew in space book had like the spaceship over the with a planet in the background, kind of like opening of a Star Trek episode kind of thing. And that conveyed very accurately the kind of genre that I was writing in. And over time, every book that had that sort of cover was Alien Invasion, actually, ironically. And then also when I started writing as well, there weren't that many lesbian sci-fi stories, and I had two women on the covers of my books. And not meaning to convey a lesbian trope because they're just friends, they're not lovers. And in the meantime, lesbian sci-fi became much more popular, and every book that looked like that was sapphic romance, sapphic sci-fi romance, and that wasn't what my book was. And so, of course, I might have been like misconveying what my book was to people. So I had to change that as well. So and that was only over the course of I want to say 7 years. That particular change happened for that book, and then so I updated the cover because one of the big tropes in sci-fi is actually like the lone um, protagonist fighting against all odds. And I actually have a big element of that in that story. So I changed my cover to be lone protagonist against all odds and increased my conversions by 20% by doing that. So, understanding what people are looking for. And instead of like, fighting against it. So often when I talk to authors about what's their book about, and we kind of start digging into it, I'm like, wait a second, this element's in your book. But it's not represented in your cover in your blurb. They're like, oh well, XYZ and this sort of thing, or maybe like their cover, their blurb conveys it in such a way that it's ambiguous. And so I'll say that to them, and the author will start explaining to me what they actually meant. I'm like, no, that's actually not what I want you to do. I want you to describe to me how we can convey that in your blurb, so the question doesn't arise, so that it's answered for people as a part of their decision-making process when they get the book, because you're not going to be there to explain to everybody, why it is that your cover shows a certain thing. It does or does not show dragons when the book does or does not have dragons. I've encountered that. Books with dragons that have no dragons on the cover. And it's like, people that love dragons you want to really convince them there's dragons. So if the blurb mentions dragons and the cover doesn't mention dragons, you've got this disconnect, and you're gonna cause questions and uncertainty with the readers. That's the last thing you want. You do not want uncertainty being introduced into the reader's decision-making process. So it's super important to not have that happen. And it's also a big thing that our class teaches. So if you sign up for our school site, school is a platform we use for all of our classes and whatnot. It's storytellerlab.net. You can sign up there. It's $37 a month, and you have access to basically everything that's in our brains, all of our Facebook classes, everything. You'll be able to get it on the new genre and trope classes when they start at the end of September. And then we'll probably, after that, leading into Christmas, do another series of Facebook classes as well, because Facebook has changed a lot this year. And hopefully, as we lead into Christmas, they're going to have solidified all of their changes, and then we can talk about what they mean, what I've learned following all the changes. And one of the biggest change has been the removal of a lot of the targets in the system. Like most author targets, I would say like 95, maybe even percent of the author targets are gone now. You have to target by genre or by like category in a way, like children's literature or something like that. And they've added a few of those, and I think they've strengthened them, but they've also made it so that it's harder and harder to not have their AI making all the targeting decisions. So it's more important than ever to really like nail the creative and test different creatives and understand which creatives are working, which ones aren't. And hey, Pranamria, how are you doing today? It's funny, by the way. So of course, this is Lunch with Mal has, for most of its existence, happened during lunch Eastern Standard Time. Or daylight time, whichever it might be. We're currently in Atlantic time, so we're actually 1 hour earlier. So it's 1:30 at this point, or 1:20. But when we move to Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan's either in Central or Mountain, they do like in Arizona. They don't do daylight savings time. They just sort of change time zones in a way, um, which caused me to realize it's actually going to become brunch with Mel. So that'll be a change that's going to happen in a couple of weeks too once we're moved. That for me, it's going to be either 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So it'll become wait, no, not 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Sometimes I go the wrong way when I do time zone conversions. It'll be 10 or 11 in the morning, so it'll become brunch with Mal, which I think is perfect. We were at a restaurant today, by the way. Joel and I went out for lunch, and their brunch ends at 11:30. I just felt like that. I don't know about that. That's mighty early to end your brunch at 11:30. I feel like brunch should go to noon, but that's just me being crazy. Oh, nice. I hope your sprints are going well, Penumbra. I'm going to be getting some writing done this afternoon too. I actually was going to do a live writing sprint on Monday. I want to get back to doing more and more of them. Life's just been chaos this summer. And I was like all queued up. I had everything all made and whatnot, and I was about to start the sprints, and I got the message from U-Haul saying there are no trucks because I was going to get the truck the next day, and there were no trucks. So that ended that and created this mad scramble. Yeah, Mountain Time Zone in the summer is where Saskatchewan is, and then Central Time Zone in the winter is how they break it down. If memory serves, I'm gonna be kind of glad in a way because growing up in a place that doesn't do daylight savings time, my brain has never really fully latched on to which way we go at what time and what the logic is and whatnot. All I really know is that come spring, the sun starts to come up around like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it starts to feel all spring-like, and then the time change happens, and now it's dark again at 6 in the morning, and it feels like we went backwards, and it makes me angry and sad. That's what daylight savings time makes me think of. I remember, like, everybody wishes we could get rid of daylight savings time. I don't know why it still exists. Like, didn't in the U.S. didn't they have like some sort of like federal plebiscite of some sort, and the determination was that everybody wants to get rid of it, and then they just didn't do it? The funny thing is, they always say like, "Oh, it's for the farmers," but I grew up in a farming community. Like Saskatchewan is all farms. I mean, it used to be all farms back when all these things were done. It's got more industry now, but it's all farmers, and they didn't want daylight savings time, so it's clearly not for the farmers. It's crazy. It is, Ryan. It is nice the computers change the clocks now. That part is at least good, except for like your microwave. Well, it depends, I guess, how good your microwave is. Um, but yeah, it's a small mercy. At least we don't have to have the VCR blinking at us or have the wrong time for half the year. Yeah, so I'm quite glad to be going to a place that doesn't have daylight savings time. That's going to be an added bonus. Yeah, no, this is it. Farmers don't care about it because the animals don't care about it. 100%, yes. The animals do not give a shit about daylight savings time. In fact, if you have animals, what you'll discover is that they want their food at the time they wanted it before, whether they're farm animals or not. Because our cats would be like, "Hey, it's food time, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning versus 6 o'clock in the morning." And we're like, "I'm sorry, cat, but I can't do it right now." You know. So yeah, I completely agree. It is a silly thing. But I'm gonna wrap. I actually only planned to lunch with Mel for half an hour today rather than my usual 45 minutes. Um, just because there's packing to do and stuff like that. I want to get some writing in this afternoon as well. So, but if anybody have any questions about anything that's going on, any thoughts? Hey, Spice. Oh my goodness. He's so squeaky. I don't know if you guys could hear him out there meowing. He and Stormfly, our other cats, they're gonna be in the car with me for 5 days. Like, wish us all luck. Hopefully, no one dies. Or 4 days. It'll probably be 4 days. It's possible to drive. It's a 4,000 kilometer, 2,500 mile-ish drive. It's possible to do it in 3 days if you're willing to go 14 hours a day. But I think I'm going to do it in 4 because I made a promise that I am not going to drive when I'm tired. I will stop and take a nap on the side of the road. Well, not on the side of the road because I say you get hit. I'll go to like a turnout or something like that. Right? I know. I'm going to put them behind the wheel, make them do their work. It's not, this is a group effort. The 3 of us driving across the country. They gotta take their turn. One of them can work the pedals, the other one can work the wheel, and I can take a nap. It'd be perfect. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fabulous weekend. I won't be around all next week, obviously, because of crazy stuff going on, and I might be back the week after, but it might be the week after that. And I'm going to have a bunch of thoughts on everything that's happening on Facebook. I'll be more recombobulated. I won't be in this room of boxes, and can talk about what we have going on as we lead up toward Christmas. All right. Have a fabulous day, everyone. I'll see you later. Ciao.